Okay, welcome to day 2 of Graphing Stories. You have already taken your notes on page 36. You've already updated your table of contents, and today we are working on page 37. So go ahead and turn open to page 37, and we are going to split up our page into thirds, but the first part is actually going to be way bigger than a third. Okay, so we want to give ourselves a lot of space on the first part and then just a little bit of space on the second and third. Okay, kind of like I showed here in this picture. So pause your video, split it up, make sure you're on page 37 of your notebook. This is what you're going to be taking a picture of at the end of class. So in section 1, we are going to write the steps to do our graphing stories problem. So I'm going to read out the steps and talk to you about it, and then you can pause the video and take those notes. So step 1 is to read the problem. So when you were doing the bridge problem yesterday, we read the problem first. Ms. Castro read it to you. Step 2, you're going to set up your table. But instead of writing X and Y at the top of your table, you're going to put in the words that the problem gave you. So in the bridge problem, we wrote number of workers and time to paint. Step 3, you're going to make some choices. So in the bridge problem, we first had to decide what kind of bridge we were painting. So the first one we did, remember, was the bridge between Cumberland Park and Kane Park. Okay, so we made a choice. Then we also made a choice on how big of a job that was. We decided it was 16 hours. So when we decided it was 16 hours, we decided how long, and we decided the set of units to use for the y-axis. You got to do that. Okay, you're going to have to make some choices. And it's okay if those choices don't match your classmates or match mine or match your teachers. It's a matter of the shape of the graph. So just make those choices. Step 4, we're going to complete the table. We have to find at least 5 values for X and Y. So a lot of times I like to start with 1, and then I pick some numbers that'll be nice. So in the little bridge problem, remember we picked the numbers 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16 for our X values because 16 divided by those numbers worked. Okay, it was a nice number. It doesn't matter what numbers you choose as long as they are going with the choices that you had already made. Step 5, we're going to graph it in Desmos and then draw the graph on our paper. It's really important that you graph in Desmos first because that'll help us with our labeling of our even intervals. So on the little graph 1, remember we counted by 5s on the X and Y axis, but on the little bridge one, we counted by 5s on our X and Y axis. On the big bridge one, we decided to count by 5s on the x-axis, but 50s on the y-axis. So Desmos told us that, so we didn't have to think. So always draw it in Desmos first. And then the final step is to plot your points and connect if it's necessary. So there are 2 things that can happen. We connect it when the x is measurable, so when we're talking about time, weight, length, when we can have a partial amount of something. So I could have a part of a year or a part of a week. So this is called a continuous graph, So we're going to connect for those kind of problems. And we're not going to connect when the X is countable. Things like people or shirts or dogs. Normally these are nouns. When I'm talking about the bridge problem, I was talking about workers. So I can't have 2.5 workers. That doesn't make sense, okay? So that's when we don't want to connect. That's when it's a discrete graph. Okay, this is also like a computer. If I had 0.75 of a computer, guess what? That's not a computer because it doesn't work. Okay, so I would not connect for that kind of situation. So pause your video now. Write all of these notes into section 1. Remember, you made section 1 the biggest, so you have space to write this notes. Make sure you've got it all because it's super important. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and let's do section 2 now. So today we're going to do another problem. We're talking about this YouTube star. Okay, so the problem says you start a new viral YouTube channel. Every day your number of views quadruples. X equals the number of days that have elapsed since you started, and Y equals the number of views on your video that day. Pause your video, write down this problem, all of it, into section 2 on page 37. Welcome back. Now we're talking section 3. So we're talking about this YouTube star video, and we're going to follow our steps. So our first step was to read it. We did step 1. Step 2 says set up your table. So let's set up our table. Okay, and part of step 2 also says that we have to use words instead of X and Y. So this one, it told us number of days that have elapsed since you started. Okay, so I'm going to say number of days because all of that stuff is way too long. Okay, and then the Y was the number of views on your video that day. So I'm just going to write number of views. So step 2, done. Step 3, it says make some choices. So it says you start a YouTube channel and every day your views quadruples, but it doesn't tell you how many views you have to start with. So I'm just going to pick it. Guess what? On day 1, I only have my own 5 views. I picked to start with 5 views. I could have picked 10 or I could have picked 100. It doesn't matter because the graph is going to look the same. It's going to be the same shape. They might not be the same numbers, but they'll be the same shape. Okay. Now, once I have one day, I just need to make sure that I'm following what the problem says. It says every day the views quadruple. Quadruple means times 4. So if I said 2 days, I now have 20 views of my video. And then 3 days, I would quadruple again. So in this kind of situation, it doesn't make sense to jump around to different numbers because it says quadruples. I just want to go from the beginning one. So I have 2 is 20. 3, if I quadruple it again, it'll be 80. 4 would be another times 4. So I'm just timesing, oh, not timesing 5, timesing 4 each time. So that would give me 320 views. And then times 4 again. Let's see, 0, 8, 2, 1. 1,280. Okay. So I've got at least 5 values in my table. Step 5 is to draw my graph, but I need to put it into Desmos first so I can see what to count by. So I need to open Desmos, and of course I don't have Desmos open right now. There it is. Okay, so I know that I need to start with my table. So 1, 5, 2, 20, 3, 80, 4, 320, and 5, 1,280. And I'm going to press the Zoom Fit button to get Desmos to help me. And if I look at this closer, it looks like it's counting by ones on the x-axis. And on the y-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So really, they're doing hundreds, but they're only labeling every 5th one to get up to 1,500. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a lead from them. So I said on the x-axis, they started at 0 and they're counting by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And on the y-axis, we said they're counting by hundreds, but they're only labeling every 5th one. So 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. Oh, I'm not making mine big enough. Let's make those closer together. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000. It says 1,000. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. So that's 1,500. Okay, and the other part of that is I had to label my X and Y axis. So this was my This was my number of days. And this was my number of views. Okay, and then last I have to plot my points. Okay, so my first day I had 5, so it's like almost on the x-axis. Day 2 I had 20, it's just a little bit higher. Day 3 I had 80, I'm still not quite at 100. Day 4 I jumped up to 320. And day 5 I was all the way up here at 1,280. Okay, so I've got this whooshing kind of graph. So now it says connect if necessary. So I have to ask myself, is my X value measurable or countable? So are my days measurable or countable? So when I'm talking about days, can I have a part of a day? Yeah, I could have 2.5 days. So I'm going to connect this graph because the views don't just magically appear when midnight strikes, they happen throughout the day. Okay, and I can't forget to give my graph a title. I totally forgot. So this will be my YouTube graph. Okay, so hopefully graphing stories will be a little bit easier with some steps. You are now going to do one practice problem and then take pictures of all your stuff and put it in Google Classroom on the assignment.